friends, welcome to my channel Edu World. In this lecture series, we'll be talking about the topics that has been prescribed in the UPSC syllabus. We have divided the lecture series into small portions which will cover all the topics that have been mentioned in the UPSC syllabus. We have taken UPSC syllabus as our base syllabus. However, these lectures would be helpful for the UP Public Service Commission, Madhya Pradesh Public Service Commission, Tamil Nadu Public Service Commission, and many other state civil service commission. So let's start. Friends, today we'll be talking about Citizen Charter. What is Citizen Charter? Basically, Citizen Charter is a document that provides for what services and what quality of services a citizen who enters a government office is supposed to get. You can imagine you entering a government office and therein what all services you desire from the government and what time frame you should get those services and what should be the quality of those service. All these things are prescribed in the Citizen Charter. So let's move on to the next slide. So if we go into the definition of Citizen Charter, the definition of Citizen Charter can be a Citizen Charter represents the commitment of an organization towards the standard, quality, time frame of service delivery, grievance redressal mechanism, transparency, and accountability. So what you can think of Citizen Charter is, let's say when any one of us enter into a government organization or a public office, then at times we are perplexed that what kind of services we are going to get, how should we get those services, and we are often scared of those babus sitting over there. So Citizen Charter is a kind of empowerment document. It enables us, or it, you can say that it's a kind of enabling mechanism which helps us to explore, or which helps us to understand that what is the standard of service we are supposed to get here. So let's come to the second point. It is an undertaking that a public service organization gives to its service receivers to meet the high standards of service. When I say it's an undertaking means it's a declaration. It's a declaration that this government office or this public office is supposed to deliver these kind of services to an employee. I think many of us would have gone to the banks or post offices or hospitals. So at times, with hospitals, I mean the government hospitals. At times, we are not sure that how to proceed for the next procedure. And that is the point where citizen charters come into act. If we are very well aware of the citizen charter, or the citizen charter is displayed right at the entry gate, then we are not we are not confused that what to do, how to go ahead. So this is an undertaking. Let's move to next point. It is the declaration of services to the citizen which empowers and entitles them to receive the promised services. I hope the point is self-explanatory. It reduces the discretion exercised by the office bearers. At times, what happens is the government officers, since they are endowed with so much of power, so at times they exercise their discretion while awarding you service. But this is not the trait of a good governance or a good administration. Everything should be clear that what kind of services the person is required to get, or the person sitting on the other side is required to deliver. So we can say that this reduces discretion, because you are very well aware of what kind of services you are expected to receive from that office and from that official. Let's move on to next point. It has a strong grievance redressal mechanism so that citizens are not aggrieved. What this statement means is, let's say you approached to an office for some particular service. Let's say you approached to a municipal office for getting a birth certificate. Now, it has been mentioned over there that birth certificate is supposed to be delivered in, let's say, 5 days. And now the service you are supposed to get in 5 days, it has been delayed. So now you are very well entitled to file for a claim or file for a complaint. And now if that particular citizen charter has a grievance redressal or a complaint mechanism, then you, after all, you'll become empowered, because you have that provision, you have that maybe the contact number of a person or the concern point of contact where you can go and complain to the person. Organizations like bank, post offices, tax offices, hospitals, etc. have the citizen charters. It ensures transparency, accountability, predictability, and reduces discretion. Friends, we know that these traits are very important for a we can say that a transparent organization or for a good organization. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, now let's discuss what's the objective of citizen charter. Because before I look into the objectives of citizen charter, let's discuss a theme. Why is citizen charter really important? We have already discussed a bit on it. Let's elaborate it a bit. For example, there are two persons. Before discussing this, let's take a small thing. Why there corruption exists in government departments? Government departments, there are multiple reasons why there is corruption in government departments. So two of the main reasons which I would describe here is, one is the complicated procedure. Complicated procedure, you go to a office, the procedure is so complicated, you are confused. What to do now? You go to a, let's say, a broker, or you approach a government employee. Sir, please get my work done. Sir says, okay, brother, I'll get your work done. Please grease my palm. Now that person is greased. And this is how the work gets done. Now, the second reason could be that there is no proper time frame or quality or standard of service. Now here you are left at the discretion of the government employee. Whatever service he offers, you're supposed to take it. You are at the mercy of that person. Now, if those services are standardized, then very well, you are saved from greasing his palm. So here we are discussing about the objectives of citizen charter. So I have classified this into 6 categories. So what I have referred to as QCS VAT. This is a very good format to learn this or maybe remember this. So first is the quality. So the objective of citizen charter is to deliver a quality of service, that is standard service. Everyone should receive same kind of service. Second is choice. There should be choices available to the customers or to the clients, those who are receiving those services. Then there is standard, as very well we talked that there should be a proper standard on what parameters the service is supposed to be delivered. There is value for the taxpayers' money, because every taxpayer is paying tax, maybe directly or indirectly. Few people are paying taxes directly, but indirectly, I think we all are paying taxes. So government has got a share of revenue or money from public. Now it's the liability of government to deliver proper value to the money they have received or the revenue they have received from the public. Next is the accountability. Accountability herein refers to that since you have been given power, then there is answerability to you. You have been using public resources, public money. Now you are accountable to public. Therefore, citizen charter is in return of those powers and money which you have been receiving from people. And last is the transparency. Transparent organization is an effective organization. So transparency lets you know about how the government organization is working. So this all 6 things, these are all the objectives of citizen charter. Why citizen charter has been devised? So you can learn it in a way, QCS VAT. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, what are the advantages of citizen charter? Before this, see how we started is what is citizen charter. Next, what are the objectives of citizen charter? And now we will study what are the advantages of citizen charter. The first is citizens know their entitlements, procedures, like we have discussed it earlier. Citizens are not at the discretion of government, rather they are empowered. We discussed it already. Corruption is reduced, system is transparent, discretion is reduced. Next, quality of services improve as they are continuously under scrutiny, because you have a citizen charter. You say that the employee, whoever enters into a public sector bank, he is supposed to receive his, or maybe he's supposed to get opened his bank account, let's say in 3 days. Now if this process is continuously under scrutiny, maybe some bank, why is ready to open this bank account in 2 days. So now, since banks are in tough competition with one another, so the other bank will itself reduce the services or the account opening procedure in 2 days. So what we can say is the quality of service every time gets improved. Ensures good governance. Yes, good governance. It is a procedure. Good governance, what you can say, it is a procedure. It is a procedure, or it is a kind of working of the government which is transparent, which is accountable, which is predictable, which is full of empathy, compassion. We will cover good governance in another lecture. Next point, it protects and builds trust and confidence in the public organization. What I mean to say, that when person goes to a public organization, he is very much confident that yes, this organization is going to offer me the best services. Next, it makes administration accountable and citizen friendly. We have already discussed about this. It is an inclusive approach where all the stakeholders are included in the process. This is a very important point for citizen charter. Why I say this is an inclusive process and all the stakeholders are involved. With the stakeholders, I mean the service receiver as well as the service provider. Before charting out a citizen charter, often meetings are held wherein all the stakeholders are made to sit on a common table. They reach to a consensus that at what kind of services they are supposed to get, what time they are supposed to get these services. See, there are two major stakeholders. One is the service receiver. Service receiver would always want that I should get the services at the best possible time, maybe most optimum time. However, the service provider is reluctant because he knows that there are different hurdles in offering a service. So what they do is they sit together. They think for a charter how what can be the optimum way or what can be the optimum time to deliver a service. I hope this is clear. Let's move on to the next slide. Now we will discuss how should a good citizen charter be framed. We discuss objective, we discuss advantages. Now how it should be framed. So first point is agreed and published standards for service delivery. With agreed and published, it means that all the stakeholders should agree on that citizen charter. Because let's say if government employees, those who are service providers, they are not consulted, then obviously they'll be reluctant to offer their full-hearted or full-fledged services. So therefore, agreement is very important, and that should be published. With publish, I mean that it's like when things have been agreed upon, it must be published on a, let's say, on a sheet, on a board, or must be displayed on a TV, wherein people can see this. Yes, these are the standards of services which are expected in this government organization. In next point is information and openness and information about service delivery. There should be openness and information about service delivery. I mean to say, these are the you can say what kind of what kind of charter or what kind of provisions has to be provided in the charter. There has to be openness in that. It must be written clearly, openly, and uh, like discreetly. Everything is mentioned over there. Next is choice and consultation with all the stakeholders. We have already discussed on this. Next is highly visible. It should be highly visible. Like you enter a government office and you have a big charter hanging over there. You'll be very happy. You'll be like, everyone would be seeing that first, and he'll be aware that what kind of services he's supposed to get. Let's assume if there is a citizen charter which is placed right inside the room of a bank manager, or inside the room of a head postmaster. You're not supposed to enter that room. So how come people will come to know what are the standards of those services, right? Next is it should be interactive, should use vernacular language, visuals, audio, video, whatever possible, like what the infrastructure permits. So with interactive, I mean that people should come to know that what all uh, services, how they are supposed to get. For example, I told you that one of the primary reasons for corruption is that process is complicated. So if you have some innovative way of displaying, innovative or interactive way of displaying that how the procedure is supposed to be followed, then definitely people will be more I mean it would be more citizen friendly, that how they are supposed to get the information. Vernacular language is important. You have to analyze the demography, that what kind of service receivers or what kind of clients enter your office. There may be sophisticated clients who might know English or Hindi or whatever language, Tamil, Telugu, whatever it is. There may be some, like for example, it is in Gujarat. So in Gujarat, there are people who understand English. There are migrants from Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh. So they understand Hindi. So there has to be a charter in Hindi, or the translation of the charter in Hindi. And again, there are people, local Gujarati people. So definitely it has to be written in the local Gujarati language as well. And visuals, audio, video. This means that people, those who are suffering some form of disability, you have to think of for everyone. This is the crux of civil services, that you have to keep into account every single person who is entering your office, to the extent your pocket or your budget or your infrastructure allows. Next is courtesy and helpfulness in service delivery. Yes, there should be courtesy, because now time is there. Now time has changed. Now the citizen or the service receiver is not at the mercy. There is a patron client relationship. I with patron client relationship, I mean that your service provider, he is a patron of your services. And I would say that patron would not be a very good word to use, but it is, he is service provider and you are service receiver. That's it. You maintain a professional relationship. I hope you understand this, because courteous organizations are anyways, uh, like, people go there happily, come after receiving, and they're more happy. So this is how it works. Provision of grievance redressal, we talked that definitely if your expectations are not met, you are very well free to contact to the person, whoever is the point of contact, or to whom you need to complain. This will satisfy you, as well as keep the organizational officers at their toes, because they are you can say they are fearful of those complaints. There can be some internal inquiry. And one point is very important, that there has to be a third party audit of that grievance redressal portal, or maybe register, whatever mechanism they maintain for that grievance redressal. Because let's say you are aggrieved and they are not registering your complaint, then that itself is a problem. Then there is point of contacts, like in citizen charter, point of contacts have to be mentioned, that which point of contact you need to contact, or you need to approach for what work. Next is updated regularly. Let's say you have posted a person's number, the person is already retired or died or left the job, and still the number is the same. This is what happens in government organizations. The person, once I remember, I went to a government office and there was a person, there was a phone number, BSNL phone number. I called that person and he says, "Sir, I am already retired 5 years back." See, what kind? This is pathetic. I mean, okay. So let's move on to next slide. So after completing these three basic things about citizen charter, I drew this charter from Department of Posts. So I think this is not very visible, but the entries entered here are key. What should be the service time, what should be the delivery time for a particular service. You can say there is in 2 days, 2 to 4 days, 2 to 5 days. So this is all like, your letter is supposed to be dispatched in these many days, or your money is supposed to be received in these many days. So I hope that if you want to visit a charter, you can very well type it on Google and see how charters look like. So I tried incorporating a charter of the Department of Posts into our slide. So this is basically how a charter looks. I hope you liked my video. We'll keep covering these topics in very small videos, so that your entire syllabus is covered. A suggestion from my side: please keep making your notes, because the questions you can expect in mains of your state civil services or Union Public Service Commission can be of max to max 15 points, 15 marks, I mean to say. So 15 marks, hardly 2 pages. So make sure that of entire lecture which we covered, you can compress the video, or you can compress, I mean that you can compress that slides into merely 2 pages. That would be very helpful to you. Okay friends, if you liked my video, please subscribe to my channel. I'll keep posting such videos in very small topics, so that you are enthusiastic about our lectures. Thanks for watching our video.